to another episode of Foundation with Steve T. I am your host and servant, Steve T, asking you just one very important question. What are you building your life on? Because the foundation of what you build your life on dictates where you go, dictates your decisions, dictates all those things. And that's what we look at, how to build on the proper foundation of Jesus Christ. Let's turn back the music a little bit. Let's get into today's episode. I'll tell you where we're going to go. All right, today's episode, we're going to hit a couple of news articles up. One's not really a news article. One is more about an ad campaign that is out there, but I think it speaks quite lively that what we have to talk about, something that is happening in our culture, but something that's is been switched and changed and manipulated in a way it shouldn't have been. Then we're going to head over again to another article in the Daily Wire. They picked up on this one. And let me ask you, do you have a trans closet? Do you have any idea what that even means? If not, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to see why this is a bad thing and what is going on in certain schools. And then after the break, we're going to come back, and we're going to have another segment of Drop the Ball. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different. This one is going to be actually an entire sermon review. And when we get there, I'm going to explain why it's important, why we're doing it. It's not just to be critical, it's not just to be mean, but it does have to do with a foundation. And the one we're going to look at is vitally important because of something they've also accomplished, something they've also done. So let's cut the music here, and we're going to get into our first segment. Here, so if it's going to be news, there's only one thing we can do, and that is pull on our news music. There we go. All right. Our opening story today in our episode of Foundation comes from an advertising campaign from the Adidas Corporation. The Adidas Corporation. Now, Adidas is most famous for their shoes, but they also make sportswear. Now, I'm not going to be putting a headline up. I'm not going to be putting things up. If you're really that fascinated, you can go look at it. I recommend you don't. But it was for their advertisement of a sports bra, sports paraphernalia, that kind of thing here. And so what is really going on with Adidas here? Now, what makes it more unique is the nature of the campaign that they're putting forth. What they're putting forth is actually, like I said, sports bra, but they did their advertisement on Twitter, not on TV. Why? Because it wouldn't pass TV. If they put it on TV, it would be given definitely an R rating. And I'm not joking about that. They decided that they would put forth their campaign, they say body positivity, but let me read you. It's a tweet from them, and it says, "We believe women's breasts in all shapes and sizes deserve support and comfort, which is why our new sports bra ranges contains 43 styles so everyone can find the right fit for them." Now, if that's all it did, that would have been fine. It's an advertisement campaign for sports bras, and women need a support when they work out, that kind of thing, and be encouraging to them. I don't want them to be uncomfortable. But to push this past in, to get this in, they put on their Twitter feed, and this was perfectly accepted, 25 sets of topless women. Now, you have no idea who these women are in any way, shape, or form. They don't show their head. They don't show their faces. They just show their middle section, the spot where they're supposed to be supporting. And that's it. That's the whole advertisement. So 25 pictures of topless women and saying we support women of all types, which is fine. But there's a problem here. And the fact that they get away with this. Now, as you can imagine, what has taken place is we'll call it a Twitter storm. And that advertisement was from February 9th, so we're talking earlier this month. We'll call it a Twitter storm where people come out on both sides asking about this. And so when Adidas came into it, here's what they said. They said breasts are natural, we want to support women, that kind of thing, and that's fine. And this is the kind of thing is what is going on here. And they put this argument in, and so they're all about body positivity. But I think it's a symptom of a larger issue of what we have here, and it's something that's in our culture that is gone. And it's really I think there was a teaching on it a while back, and it was called the death of shame. We have lost shame. Well, that's not even entirely true. We haven't lost shame. What we have is we have a twisting of shame. In other words, the things that we should be ashamed of, we're not, and the things that we shouldn't be ashamed of, our culture is saying, you've got to be ashamed of this. You should be ashamed of this thing. And this is wrong. This is a problem. Shame is actually a good thing. Believe it or not, shame is important. Why? Because when it comes to shame, shame helps us understand when we've stepped out of line. That's really what it is. Now, the problem is the moral fabric of our society has been twisted. But in the original beginning, when shame came into being, shame came when the fall came in. Shame actually is designed. It's almost like a guidance of when we step out of the moral grounds of what God has actually put in place. You go back to the original creation in Genesis chapter 2. When Adam was created and God made a helpmate for him, comparable to him, taken from his side, it makes a statement that they were both naked. And they were unashamed. They were. So when there was no shame. Why? Because it was an innocence. It was immorality. It was good. It was holy. It was pure. But then we turn around, and after the fall and sin came into being, it says the man and the woman's eyes were open after they ate of the tree that they shouldn't. It's not that it was really like necessarily magic fruit so much, but it was more about the idea that they rebelled against God. They rejected what God had said, God's standard. And as soon as that happened, it says their eyes were open. They realized they were naked, and they were ashamed from each other. So they made fig leaves. They had shame. They were shame before each other. They were shame before God. So shame is one of those things that actually directs us and helps us know when we get out of line. But our culture has turned around and twisted it. And twisted things. Let's take, for example, some of these things that you can be... You're shamed for bringing shame now, is what you really have. And I'll apologize for my language, but these are the topics of how they're used. Let's go fat shaming. So it's called under the guise of the body positivity movement. That's really what it is. And so they say if you encourage people to get healthy, well, you're fat shaming. If you're saying they're not healthy, well, you're fat shaming. So a dietitian, and one is anybody who's claiming say well, you need to eat better to be healthy. Well, you're fat shaming. Well, see, there's the problem. Instead of being ashamed that we're overweight, it's being celebrated. This unhealthy lifestyle is being celebrated. This is the twisting. Then how about the topic? And this is the one that I said, I apologize a little bit just because the language is a little crude, but they say the idea of slut shaming. So to require modesty and to preach modesty and to proclaim modesty, you'd be classified as slut shaming. What's amazing, there was actually a Twitter not too long ago of a pastor who was putting forth the biblical argument for Christians to practice modesty, particularly of young women. Why? Because men are visual. We are. This is the way they were created. Visual desire. The desire is the wife. And he called for them to clothe up. And so from there, what did people do? His report says they started sending him very bad photos that he shouldn't have, and claiming that he was slut shaming to the point that even Beth Moore, if you're familiar with that name, came out against him, basically saying, "What are you doing, telling women to cover up?" That kind of thing. And if you want more, I could actually do something on that sometime. You can find it, what she actually said. But it's this idea of slut shaming, to claim modesty, to claim holiness in the areas of sexual purity, is classified. That's shameful to call that out. See, this is what the problem with Adidas is. So they're arguing over it's all under this body positivity movement, and they use this argument, a logical fallacy, and it's called the Mott-Bailey fallacy. Now, what is a Mott-Bailey fallacy? And this is one that happens a lot in our culture. But a Mott-Bailey fallacy, the Mott, think of this as the castle, is a castle, and the Bailey's the marketplace. So basically, that's kind of the idea there. But a Mott is the place of security, the place of strength, the argument that everybody agrees with. And so in their argument of why, and this is Adidas saying, why it should be okay for them to publicize this, why it should be okay for women to go around topless everywhere, breasts are a natural part of the body. That's a strong point. Is anybody going to argue that? Is anybody going to fight against it? We say, no, that's fine. It's a natural part of the body. We have lots of natural parts of the body. I've got a nose, I got eyes, I got ears, I got a chin, I got elbows, I got shoulders. That's all natural part of the body. No one's going to argue on it. That's the Mott. But what's the Bailey? Well, the Bailey is the very weak argument, is what it is that you put forth, and it's so weak. It's like, because breasts are a natural part of the body, well, therefore, women should be allowed to show their breasts wherever they want. And you go, wait a minute, no. Let's talk about this. And they're like, no. Oh, don't you agree that breasts are natural? Well, yes. See, it's a Mott-Bailey. That's what it is. Mott is a very strong argument that everybody agrees with, and then the Bailey's this weak, indefensible argument. And every time someone comes against the Bailey, they they run back to the Mott. That's the idea, Mott Bailey. And here's the point: the weakness of this argument that they're making, that breasts are a natural part and you shouldn't body shame anybody. Would everybody be okay with men going around with no bottoms, showing off their I'll use the medically clearance formed here, the penis to everybody? Would you have a problem with that if a athletic company who was advertising cups and protection for the genital area just did the exact same advertisement, say not all men are the same, and then put out there 25 men and 25 penises out there? We'd be like, no, you can't. Why not? It's a natural part of the body. This is the weak argument that they're put forth. But it happens all the time, and look at the way it happened with the COVID shot. And some says, I'm against COVID shot. Well, you're anti-vax. Well, no, I'm not. See, there's the Mott Bailey. It's a Mott Bailey. It's like vaccines are good. Anybody going to argue that vaccines that are good, that are effective, that they work, they're safe, those are good? Anybody going to argue that? Look, and this is where you heard it in this way that most people don't even realize they've made this Mott Bailey fallacy. Is, well, look at what the vaccines did for smallpox. Look what it did for polio, that kind of thing. And so they retreat back to this Mott, this all vaccines, when the people want to talk about one. That's a Mott Bailey. See, this is the way it is. But back to the original point here is the death of shame. And how far have we gotten? Well, look at Romans chapter 1. Not only do they do what they shouldn't do, they applaud those who do the exact same thing. This is the death of shame. See, what we need, believe it or not, we need the proper definition of shame back in our culture. Because now where do they put the shame? The shame is on, hey, how dare you tell a woman what she should wear? How dare you not accept those who are completely obese and doing harm to themselves? How dare you say that homosexuality is a sin? How dare you say that transgenderism is not right? How dare you attack a school system that's promoting inclusivity? There you go. There's the other Mott Bailey. Inclusivity. And I understand this. When the schools teach inclusiveness and you say, hey, I don't agree with this. Like, what? You disagree with having children with certain learning disabilities and included in the classroom? Look, I am a father with multiple kids who have ASD. Do I want them included in society? Well, absolutely. Do I want them included in the classroom? See, that's the Mott, the inclusivity. What's the Bailey? Well, therefore, we should be teaching transgenderism and gender theory to kindergarten kids, to grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Well, no. And then you speak up, it's like, you're against inclusive. Well, no, I'm not. You see, this is often how it works. The whole government system did this, Mott Bailey. Again, with conversion therapy. So you're against helping people deal with homosexual urges. Well, so you're for conversion therapy. You're for tying people up, using electroshock therapy. You're for... It's like, no, I'm not. But am I against homosexuality? And should people be able to seek out help professionally to deal with unwanted sexual desires? Well, yes, they should. But then you're for conversion therapy. You see, that's a Mott Bailey. But it's this death of shame. We need shame back, and we need shame back in the proper way. That's how we need shame. Shame is designed to help us stay on track, and our culture has gotten rid of this, has gotten rid of shame in all aspects. This is why partly I think our academic system is failing, because we're no longer. Kids are no longer ashamed to have bad grades. I get bad grades. Yeah, so what? Hey, you were kicked out of school? Yeah, I was kicked out of school. Yeah, look at me. I was kicked out of school for fighting, for whatever, and who cares? That kind of thing. And this is why it's like, you didn't help them out. Well, I'm not getting involved. Why? A day would come, we'd be shamed when we saw somebody in need and didn't help them. We'd be shamed when we haven't put our full effort into whatever job that we're doing. We would feel shame. It's time we get back to actual shame, because what this actually shows is that we've gotten away from God's standard of holiness, and it's twisted shame. The Bible says it this way: they've called evil good and good evil. This is foretold to happen. Romans chapter 1, the debasement of the human heart, it has been hardened, and our culture is going that way. And I think Adidas here, in their advertisement for their sports bra, they're just a symptom of a larger thing. They're exploiting people to sell this idea, to sell clothing. And if that's the case, if women don't have to wear clothing. Everything's natural, then why buy sports clothing in the first place? But we need to get back. I think shame is actually a good thing, to have shame. But the shame should not be standing for the things of God. The shame needs to be found in the areas where we go against God. That's shame. And we're living in a culture that has killed shame. So two things there in our first article there. That, again, I didn't really put forth an article. That's just because I'm not going to show the campaign kind of thing there. But the two things there were definitely the death of shame, and we need to return to shame, and helping you understand that Mott-Bailey fallacy, making this very strong argument and then going into a weak one, and then when the weak one's attacked, you go back. And again, you see it everywhere. As I said, you saw it with the COVID shot. You see it with the argument of conversion therapy. You see it in the areas of inclusion. You even see it in the abortion argument, where they argue, say, oh, so you believe in a women's right to choose. Nobody says women shouldn't have rights. No one says that women shouldn't work. No one says women shouldn't have the ability to vote. But then you take that to the area of abortion, where it comes to the murdering of an infant in the womb, and you say, no, that's wrong. Say, oh, no. So you can't argue that. Then you're against women's right to choose. That's a Mott-Bailey. That's really what it is. So that's what the first one is a bit about here. Let's move on to our second news article, and this one I'll give you a news article again. It's going to be from the Daily Wire, but for that we need our news music. Let's pull that up. All right, there we go. Our second one here, again, it's coming from the Daily Wire, but it's all about a trans closet. Do you have a trans closet? So what does that even mean? Well, let's pull up the article here so you can see it. The trans article. Okay. California school creates transition closet. Allows students to swap out clothes of parents approve of. Swap out of the clothes of parents approve of. So let's look here. So a high school in Oakland, California. Why does everything like this happen in California? California, what are you doing? California, you need to get some shame. That's what you need to do. California, you need shame. Let's get some shame back in California, shall we? As we knew. So, a high school in California is creating a transition closet that will allow students to come to school in clothes that their parents approve of and change into clothing of their selected gender identities. Now, I'm going to come back to that, but this reminds me of something that parents have to be careful of. Where, I remember talking to a mom one time, and she was talking about her teenage daughter, and her daughter was falling into a certain crowd, and she saw what her daughter was going to wear for school that day and said, no, you're not wearing that, go change. And the daughter immediately went to her room and no fuss, none whatsoever. And the mother kind of thought, wait, hold on a second, something's up here. Something is up here. And the daughter came out wearing clothes, but the mother's like, hey, okay, she looked a little bulky. It's like, hold on, lift up your shirt. And sure enough, they hadn't actually changed. They just put other clothes over top. That's all they did. They're going to hide it. What are they going to? They're going to do this trick. And you see this in shows. They think this is school. But what is the school actually doing? Well, they're doing two things. One, they're messing up these kids. And yes, it may even be a high school. But they're messing up these kids. They're causing confusion, saying it's whatever you feel in your heart. That's right. Whatever you do. But second, it's not only is it undercutting the authority of the parents, it's breaking the relationship between the parents and the youth, and saying, youth, your parents really don't care about you. Your parents, they really don't have what's best for you. We know, so you come to us. Well, let's go back. Let's continue with the article a little bit here. So all right. According to a Facebook post from a nonprofit organization, the Transition Closet, is that their whole organization? Says, we are extremely excited to begin our journey in working with Fairmont High School of Oakland, California. The near future holds transition closets and services throughout the school district for students of the trans, non-binary, intersex, and additional LGBTQIA plus communities. Okay, I'm going to admit here, I have no idea what intersex is. I understand what the trans is. Trans is one going from one gender to the other, from their argument. The non-binary is somebody who doesn't identify as male or female. I have no idea what they really identify as. I guess they don't actually exist and that kind of thing. But intersex, I'm not sure. I don't know what that is. Look, you got LGBTQIA. I don't know. I'm guessing that's lesbian, gay, bi, trans, questioning, I guess. Intersex and, I don't know, asexual. I don't know, which makes it a funny thing anyway. It's just the LGBTQIA plus is anybody who's not straight. Let's put it that way. There you go. So the Post-Millennial reported that the concept emerged. Now here's the worst part. The concept emerged from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Fayetteville, Arkansas, to help children experiment with transgenderism without their parents' knowledge. For shame on that Lutheran church. Shame on the Lutheran church. They're supposed to be. They held the title church. Strip them of the title church. Strip them of anything that has to do with relation to Jesus Christ. Strip them of it. Because here's what they've done. They've undercut the parents. They're promoting things that the scriptures say definitely not for. Man shall not lie with a man as it does with a woman. Such as an abomination unto the Lord, Leviticus 18. Again, Romans talks about this. Man shall not lie with a man because God has given them over to a debased heart that they should do what they should not do. Romans chapter 1. It continues to talk on. It says, the sexual immoral, nor the sodomite, nor the homosexual shall enter the kingdom of heaven. But this is a church saying, hey, go ahead. The second part is did you notice that? It's talked about that they could experiment. That they could experiment with. Do we have drug closets in schools? Should we put drug closets in schools? Should we? Should we put marijuana? In Canadian schools, should we put marijuana closets because marijuana is legal? Schools have smoking section, but the kids don't want the parents to know. So you can come. Here's a closet for you. We'll put ventilation. You can go smoke marijuana. Or how about sexual promiscuity? Are we going to set up brothels in school now, so that kids could experiment with this in a safe place? Safe. I use that in quotes. Safe place where their parents can do. Is that what this is about? See, I want us to understand this is horrible. This Lutheran church, as I said, should be stripped of the title church. And it should definitely be stripped of it and taken away from them. So that they can experiment in transgender. What else are we going to say? What else are we going to experiment in? Huh? What else is it going to be? Might experiment in weapons usage. Parents are against guns. Let's give the kids handguns in a spot. So they can experiment without the parents knowing. You see, what this has done is this is tearing families apart. This is a church. Keep in mind, they have the title church. They're supposed to be bearing the image of Christ. But they're tearing families apart. Yet they would say, hey, no, we're all about the family. We promote inclusivity. There's the problem there. We promote family values. No, you're tearing families apart. They're tearing families apart. Well, let's continue. All right. The Trans Closet is partnering with Thomas Martin Edwards, a Spanish teacher at the Oakland Unified School District and founder of the Queer Teacher Fellowship, to launch the project. The social media account teacher exposed unearthed footage of the teacher discussing the initiative on TikTok. Just a lot of talk going on TikTok. And look at it here. Here's what he says. The goal of the transition closet is for our students to wear the clothes that their parents approve of, come to school, and then swap out into the clothes that fit who they truly are, Martin Edwards explained. Are they going to have a separate locker at school? How are they going to get the clothes to school? They're going to sneak them in? So the thing, what you've done is you've made the parents the bad guy. And then, not only that, what does he do? He equates it to Superman. Look at this. And I use the idea that this is like Superman changing in a phone booth. But the idea actually goes a lot further than that. Okay, so he equates it just to Superman. It's like Superman's going to change, okay? Change it further. Because Superman isn't Clark Kent. Clark Kent is actually the disguise, he insisted. And when Clark Kent goes into the phone booth, he transforms into Superman, who is really just who he truly is, Kal-El. So this gives our trans students the opportunity to be the superheroes we know that they are. Now, a couple of problems there. It's like, first say, hey, you're a superhero. This is the thing here. They've been pushing this in various ideas that kids, you are superheroes, so be like the superheroes. So do this, do that. But the problem is Superman, okay? Let's go back to Superman. Superman's not who he really is. When he was born, his parents didn't name him Superman. Martha and Jonathan Kent. Now, okay, I'm using comic books here. Sorry. I know it's not real for those. Spoiler alert, Superman's not real. And look, I'm a Superman fan as much as anybody. My favorite one, Superman, my wife's probably sick of me watching it because I've watched the series a couple times. The Adventures of Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman, with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. Terry Hatcher. Somebody, if I get that wrong, somebody will be like, hey, you got that wrong. Yeah, whatever. And I love it. But when you look at it, Superman is Superman. Kal-El. He didn't even know his name was Kal-El for the longest time. Okay? He didn't even know that. Superman was the disguise. Superman's the disguise so he can live a normal life. So he had the disguise on the side. So it's actually the exact opposite of this. So he's kind of got that wrong. But it's not that Superman is who he really is. It's so he could live. He was Clark Kent. Superman was the disguise so he could live however he desired. So Superman, so that's what it was. So he could still do what he wanted to do. He could save people and all that, but he could live the normal life. See, they've twisted this around and they've manipulated it and they've taken it for their own means. That's what it really is. So it's like, hey, let's give them a closet. The nice thing is actually in Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman, Superman never uses a phone booth at all. He does a kind of spin thing is what he does. He just spins and changes into Superman. That's what he does. So phone booth isn't even there. That's just in the one I like. I know the old one was phone booth, but hey, that's kind of the way it is. All right, but let's continue the article. And you're going to see, and I think the Daily Wire is right on this, where they continue on. Look at what it says. The transition closet is far from the first example of public schools enabling or even causing, that's a thing, gender transition among the students. So California mother Jessica Conan, whose 6th grade daughter was allegedly recruited by teachers and encouraged to change her name to a boy's name while being told not to tell her mother, began taking legal action against the Speckles Union School District earlier this year. The teachers encouraged Jessica Corn's daughter to change her name to a boy's name as an expression of her new identity and specifically instruct her not to tell her mother about her new identity because her mother couldn't be trusted. Again, setting up parents against kids against parents. This is a breakdown of the family unit, is what it is. Then they gave her articles and required her to read them on how to hide her transgenderism from her parents. The Center for American Liberty, which is representing Conan, explained. Still, without Jessica's knowledge, the teacher and administrator created a gender support plan, instructing faculty to refer to her daughter by a new name and male pronouns and to let her use the unisex teacher's class restroom. The rising popularity of left-wing instruction in public schools, especially critical race theory and LGBTQ identity, it's under critical theory. They lump critical race, but critical theory, LGBTQ theory, and ideology is under critical theory, has motivated many parents to seek new educational opportunities for their children. From March 2020 to September 2020 alone, homeschooling rates across the country grew between 5.4 and 11%. Yeah, see, what is happening is they're attacking the children. They're attacking the very identity of who they are. And this is what happens when the foundation of our school system has been moved from the scriptures. Now, I'm not talking about, hey, I'm going to teach Bible classes in public schools. But it's the foundation of it, the morality of it, the idea of, hey, you are created special. See, they're saying, oh, yeah, you're special as long as you do this. So does that mean that according to this article, that in that transition closet, that if I'm not a transgender student, then I'm not a superhero? Only the transgender students are superheroes? So therefore, if I want to be included in this group, and this is a particular time, for generally young girls are more susceptible to this because they're seeking that approval, that they're more susceptible to this idea and following, saying, I get approval from these people, particularly if they're coming from a broken home. If they're coming from a single-parent home, and God bless single moms. I wish there wasn't single moms. I wish every family could have a mother and a father in the way that God intended, but God bless single moms. But a lot of times they have to work hard, and even when it's single dads, they have to work hard. And so the child who's now in a school system where they have a teacher who cares, it becomes the parental figure. And then they start pushing this. The child is going to start looking for the approval of that parental figure. And when they start saying, oh, well, you do this, oh, you may be a boy or you may be a girl, so I'm going to encourage you in this and I'm going to push you in this, and you hide it from your parents, your single parent, your mom, your dad, your both of them, your uncles, because they can't be trusted. Yeah, and this is the problem. See, the foundation's got away. So they're being told, hey, I can tell you you're special. But when we hold to the foundation of the gospel of Jesus Christ, when we hold that we are made in the image of God, you are unique right where you are. It doesn't mean you can't do things to improve yourself, but understand this, that God made you the way you are, that you are created in his image. Yes, you can work out. Yes, you can lose weight. Yes, you can eat properly to look more healthy. You can do these things. These are fine. But it's not going to change who you are. See, they're talking about the very core of an identity of a person. And the core of the identity needs to be found in Jesus Christ. This is what we need to teach our youth. This is where we need to do. All right. I'm going to stop there again. If you have any questions or anything you want to write in, comments, feel free to write in. Write to me at pastorstephenteed@gmail.com. I'd love to respond to you. Write in the comments of the video. If you want to talk about anything, that's great. I would love to hear from you. So we're going to go up. We're going to take our first kind of break here. We're going to come in. And then after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to do our drop the ball segment. But again, it's going to be a little bit different. And after the break, I'll talk about where we're going to go and how it's going to be different and why we're doing it. So come on back after the break and we'll continue on.